Hi, I'm Frank Rohwer, President and Chief Scientist for Delta Waterfowl. I'm here to introduce 3 videos that we're going to do to talk about the dreadful season that we had in Louisiana and much of the South, actually. So, in the first video, I'm going to cover the obvious things: the late migration, the exceptional water that spread ducks out everywhere. But let me also back up a little bit and talk to you about the traditional trend of what happens in Louisiana. Louisiana has highly variable harvest. It's a great state to be at the end of the flyway, and in great years we get a ton of ducks. But in poor years we don't get many ducks, and that obviously happened last year. My hunting was bad, and everybody I've talked to had tough hunting in Louisiana, and that happened in many of the southern states. So what happened? We had the worst of 3 situations happen. We had lousy production on the prairies, so we didn't send many ducks south. We had a delayed migration. It looked like it was going to be an early fall, and then it wasn't, and the ducks stayed north. The counts in Louisiana were down for much of the early fall. And then when the ducks arrived in Louisiana finally, we had so much water that the ducks were just spread out all over. Louisiana's harvest is highly variable from year to year. When we have a great year, Louisiana will harvest up to 40% of the ducks in the Mississippi flyway. So one state harvesting a good fraction of the ducks for the whole flyway. But in a year like last year, that's not going to be the case. Harvest will be way down. So we see this roller coaster effect in Louisiana. It's particularly evident when you look at the gadwall and greenwing numbers, 2 sort of bread and butter ducks for Louisiana. In some years we're shooting nearly 1 million gadwall, and in other years barely over 100,000. So incredible fluctuations. In some years for greenwings and gadwall, Louisiana shoots more than all the other 13 states in the Mississippi flyway. So that's been happening for quite some time, this variable harvest. So Louisiana hit it tough last year. Partly it was the migration. Everybody knows that we had a delayed migration. And then the second thing is take a look at these figures that show stream flow in South Louisiana or throughout the Southeast. What you see in Louisiana and Texas in this past January was there was water everywhere. We're at the 90% level for stream flow. So there was a ton of water on the landscape, and the ducks were spread out. And last January, we were well below average, actually, in most of Louisiana and Texas. So you see that the ducks were spread out this year, and that made it particularly hard. One of the things I'd like to point out is that Louisiana's harvest is highly variable. Compare that to Missouri. Missouri is a state that just cruises along, shoots far fewer ducks than we do in Louisiana, and stays relatively constant. And that's true as you go up the flyway. So the ducks weren't getting shot up in Missouri in exceptional numbers, nor were they in the central flyway. You see that there's no big shift of ducks over the years into the central flyway. So it was mostly weather and water. And in video number 2, we'll talk about duck production, which is a big issue, and particularly in southern states.